love to stay busy. I love doing everything with my tribe. So yeah, that's, I kind of do. I'm a jack of all trades when it comes to culture, I guess. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Miel Marrufo. I am Eastern, well, like you saw the slide, I'm Eastern Pomo from the Clear Lake Basin. I'm enrolled in Robinson Rancheria. Right now I'm the environmental director for Giddyville Rancheria. I serve as a Central California representative for US EPA Region 9, and I'm the California State Representative on the US EPA Tribal Caucus. So one of my main roles right now is translating environmental policy into not necessarily layman's terms. I don't like to say layman's terms because that often implies that we're not smart enough to understand policy. I translate it so that our tribes have a simplified way of using these tools to protect our cultural landscape. I'm also an artist. I curate exhibits highlighting contemporary Native American artists, in particularly California artists. However, as I get older, my role is changing. My role in the community is always changing. I do practice our cultural arts. And so I have like Martina said, I think that's what we all are, that through our cultural arts, we're kind of a jack of all trades, maybe a master of all of them, but we often just say jack of all trades. What I'm passionate about in my community is giving my community the tools that they need to continue. I like teaching our Pomo people, as well as non-Pomo people, part of our cultural arts, part of reconnecting, because the more we connect people with these lands, the more easier it's going to be to protect our lands for our basketry, for the things that we need to do with them. So thank you.
Thank you both for sharing. I do want to add also that both Mio and Martina are like aunties to me, in our community. These are our teachers, these are our leaders, these are people who both have helped me with my basket weaving and have taught me a lot of knowledge. And just like Auntie Mia was saying, that it's not just the Pomo community, we share a lot of this knowledge with other people from other communities so that they have an understanding of why these cultural resources are so important to us, and how it's not just the Native community that will protect these things, that we need allies to help us ensure that these materials are protected. And I think that helps kind of leeway into one of our first questions here, which is, what are some issues that some of our local basket weavers and cultural practitioners like yourself come up against? What are some issues that are coming up in the community for us?
Well, for me, I would have to say that it's land ownership. There's a lot of land surrounding our territory, or within our territories, surrounding our reservations, and any land owned, trust lands and fee lands. And a lot of times these places are where our old gathering sites were, and the roads are on our old gathering trails, and so it becomes very difficult to get things, and there's little in the way of what's on the reservation. For my tribe, we just, we've had our new coast property, coastal reserve, and so me and my family have been hiking that area for the last couple of years since it came into our hands, and we're finding a lot of medicines, a lot of foods, but as far as basket materials, that's, kind of, that there's not very much of that. But we're still looking, it's pretty good land, and so there's a lot to go over. we find that a lot of places use pesticides, and so that becomes an issue for not just our health, but even for the plants themselves. Um, I think the biggest part is that we call it a hit and run or a drive by, when these items, these plant items and twigs or plant trees and roots are on other people's properties. So we kind of just like, have somebody watching, and another person runs onto the property and gets those, weaving materials. Especially when the property owners like, don't come on my land. But that's where our people have been gathering for so many generations, and so it makes it very difficult. And but there are times where some property owners see us and they're like, you know what, you come and let me know anytime you want to come, and you guys can come and gather anytime. So that always, really makes us feel really good. So, but that's the biggest issue, I feel.
Ditto. No, I'm just joking. Some of the issues facing our local basket weavers is that as we teach more basket weavers, as we have more basket weavers come up, the supply of basket materials becomes not problematic. I don't want to say it's problematic. I want to say that it is, we have basket areas that haven't been harvested for many, many, many years. And when younger basket weavers come out, they want to be able to go and collect, and they're not understanding that it takes 5 years for a basketry area to come up to par, so that you can gather materials. You can just walk in there and just have your materials. So a lot of the idea of sustainable gathering areas, land ownership, like Martina was saying, is definitely an issue because of the checkerboarding that California tribes have, or the lack of checkerboarding for the unrecognized or the city, the ones that are closer in the cities. They're having to go out and find areas that have those basketry materials. Over where I'm from, we have a lot of channelizing of waterways, and we have a lot of ag, pulling off, and that actually affects our basket materials. One of the beautiful things about California is that our basket materials grow in water. And if you don't have water, you don't have basket materials. So not only is the drought affecting us, but the pathways and channels that water is transported in California has affected our basketry areas immensely. There's no longer marshes created where there used to be. There's no longer vernal pools in some areas. There's no longer those floodings that happen naturally because our waterways are channelized. And so it's not necessarily the access to it, because we'll cross the fence really easily, folks. I think anytime you're a traditional person in today's world, you're going to go out with the idea that you're going to chance it, and we're going to gather where we need to gather. So one of the other issues is knowledge, is the idea that when tribal people are out there gathering, that we're in some cases harming these plants, or we're cutting them down and they're not going to sustain themselves. Basket plant harvesting is good for the plants. It's good for the plants. It makes them healthier, it brings them back, and they will help the waterways more because they're healthier plants that aren't root bound, that allow water through them, that allow these different things. So the knowledge of non-natives land ownership, that they think that these native plants, number one, are being harmed, but number two, they're replacing them with invasive species. And that's harming us too, because there are now more material. There's more English willow in certain areas than there is our native willows. And I do know there's some beautiful baskets being made with English willow, but they're not our style of baskets, because our style of baskets require more strength within our willows. And English willow is not strong. It cracks when we do our things with them. So the native species, the care and use that the basket weavers actually give to them, and the land ownership, I would say those are some of the issues, especially the channelizing of our waters. Thank you.
Thank you both for sharing. And I think it gives really good insight, because there are a lot of people in the room today, and probably other people that will hear this recording later, that maybe work for park district, or water agency or land trust or so. And so it's good to have this insight and know, when is it time to reach out to tribal communities for some help or some insight or some assistance, but also, how to be more mindful of what materials are there on their lands and their property, which are some topics that we've already been able to share with some of the participants here in the Right Relations program. And so with that, I think, when we think about these allies that are not native, such as some of the people that are listening in today, how can they be more of assistance to some of those issues that you both talked about, as far as you know land ownership, as well as thinking about the waterways and how those have changed?
That put me right into where I wanted to add on to what Meyo said when she mentioned about you know how we have more weavers, and so then it becomes problematic for those who have been weaving for many years to go and make sure that they're able to find the things they need. And so when there's a land ownership and you know what you have on your property, sharing that, like with the Pomo Weaver Society, and letting us, allowing or I really don't know how to say it without feeling kind of funny about it. Allowing us to come onto your property and clean or gather in that site, because not always is it going to be a time to gather. It's going to be a time to clean up what the overgrowth is and clear out the area, feed the ground, assess the condition that these plants or roots are under. We could go, like Mio said, 1 year we go and clean up, and it's not going to turn out until 5 years later. But once the one thing to understand is, once you allow tribal people to come onto your land to gather, it's not just that one time to gather or to clean up. It would be a consistent thing every year at a certain time of year to come and gather, collect, clean, feed the ground, feed the plants, give back. And we're not opposed to people coming and helping, outsiders and that. It's just the teaching part where we're so little in amount of having weavers that we're really being this mother bear, where we're just wanting to teach our own people right now. But as far as like the care of how plants are cared for, that's different. Like that, we're open to that. It's manpower, right? So we want to get it all done at one time, and we're able to share it, and we're supposed to share that part, how we give back, give that reciprocity, that stewardship, teach what we know in that manner. I know that was taught to me. You hand that down, because some not tribal people, but some cultures have forgotten that part of who they are. They have forgotten that connection to earth, that understanding of reciprocity and stewardship. So that is something that we have to share and give back. And that's when we're called cultural bearers, because we have all of that information, and it's something that we were raised on, something that was just steeped within us as children, small children. And there's things I could remember being taught when I was little. I always thought, why do I need to know this? But now I'm an adult and I'm like, oh, I understand. It was it was like this little story they were telling us all our life that, that would carry out into our future, into our adulthood. And then now we look back and now we understand why. We understand that throughout our whole life they were teaching us to be cultural bearers, indigenous people, history bearers, just all the things that we are today. And and it's sad to say that some families haven't carried that. They lost that, and that's really sad. But we are here, like people like Meyo and other people in the Pomo Weaver Society, other people that are cultural bearers within the tribes, that we are able to carry that on. So like, just remember that, like, you're not just helping us out to reconnect people to the earth and to our traditional things, but you are helping people to revive something in the people that the living part of their culture has gone to sleep.
Um, okay, so I'm going to talk to several different people here. For the sole owners, like Martina said, it's more than one time. I said earlier, it takes about 5 years to get a spot up and running. So when you say, oh, and I have redbud on my property, you guys are welcome to come get it, and then wonder why we're there all the time. why we're there more than once. You actually harvest redbud at 2 different times, and so it's more than a one-time shot. And the first time you pick it is not the first time you're actually going to get good ones from it. Or when people say, oh, I have this on mine, and then they want to stand there and watch you do it to see what you do it with. So for the sole owners that are wanting to offer their lands, it's more than one time. If you're going to make an offer and you really want to be an ally, make the offer for real. For parks management, I see there's a lot of parks management people on there. Welcome. Give us our own areas. Put areas aside that are for the tribes to gather on, and only for the tribes to gather on. Have them come in, not necessarily with an enrollment card or a certain list, but have them come in as tribal people and understand that they need an area to gather in. I also want to tell parks management, put us in your consultation policies. When you're going to be doing things, this goes for, I see there's some utility districts, I see there's some Redwood Leagues, there's Academy of Sciences, there's National Parks Conservancies. I'm looking at the list here and it's quite an impressive list. Put us into the consultation policies. You want to know about the land that you have? Let us tell you about that land. And don't put just any person in there. Find the tribal people that are near your area and ask them. And that might just be the unrecognized. Have more than the most likely descendant list from the Native American Heritage Commission. Understand where you are and the people that are collecting there. If you're in Ohlone country, please understand that there are like 20 different areas of Ohlone. If you are in Miwok country, please understand that there are many different Miwoks, and Miwoks come in different shades. They come in Sierra Miwoks, Lake Miwoks, and Coast Miwoks. For those Bay Area people, the Coast Miwoks are the people you would be dealing with the most. When we're talking Pomo country, there are 26 Pomo tribes within Pomo country. Understand who you're talking to and where you're talking to. If you are talking about the Kashaya Coast area, which is basically the bottom of Anchor Bay all the way down to Fort Ross and inland almost to Santa Rosa. I mean, it's a huge area. And so when you're talking about Martina's land, the Kashaya people, understand who you're talking to and why you're talking to them. You want to be an ally, then listen to us before you develop the consultation. Listen to us before you develop the policy. Oftentimes, as a person who deals with policy in my job, what I'm hearing people come in and say is, oh, we're going to have a policy for Native Americans to do this, this, and this, and this. Oh, and I'll come back as a California rep and I'll say, what tribes did you talk to? We didn't talk to the tribes. Okay, well, we're a little too far along in our history for Big Brother. We need for people to talk to us and treat us like, you want to be an ally, then you learn how to be an ally to the people you want to be an ally with. And this is no shade on anybody out there. I see a lot of small groups in this listing, and I want to thank you all for coming. That means a lot, because there's people from all over. I see there's a lot more Bay Area because this is Bay Area specific. I want to tell you something just from me personally. Don't get involved in the politics of what tribe over what tribe over what tribe. You're not being an ally by getting involved with the politics of it. Send it out to all of them and listen to what everybody has to say. Because a lot of these tribal boundaries the borders of our tribal boundaries are not our ancestral borders. So please listen to all the different Alonis when you're making an Aloni decision. Please listen to all of the Pomo people when you're talking about these coastal Pomos. Talk to all of them. There's like 4 different ones that you can talk to. Policies, more than one time. Yeah, thank you.
I just wanted to add to that what Mio was saying. Consulting the tribes about policy. There are those, where she said, the territorial boundaries are skewed right now, and so we have a lot of buffer zones. And so there are for my tribe, there's a buffer zone within Jenner all the way into, Bodega area, and, the more northern part of Bodega area, into Santa, the northern part of Santa Rosa area. There's these buffer zones between the Pomo people and the Coast Miwok people. So and even in Dry Creek Pomo also. So understanding that, but not, like she said, not getting into the policy part of it. I mean, the tribal politics of it, but just knowing that, understanding that, in our buffer zone, we both get an email about what's going on, and whoever shows up to represent, so sometimes that's how it goes. Sometimes we'll show up and then we'll see Miwok, Coast Miwok people there. We're like, oh, you guys got a call. Okay, good. And so sometimes it's just one of us or one of them. And so sometimes that's how it goes. And I know it's difficult to find those fine lines and understanding them. We understand them. That's all you need to know, is we understand them. So sometimes when we know that we don't have a word edgewise, we will make sure that somebody from their tribe is there. So yeah, that's all.
Thank you both for just more knowledge and context. I think it's very important, going back to what you said, Martina, about having reciprocity and stewardship in together, because something that we teach here at Redbud is respect, reciprocity, and relationships. That's not just with one another, that's when we're out tending and gathering, when we're out building relationships with people. It's always with respect, reciprocity, and relationships in mind. That's kind of like our 3 R's at Redbud. But it's really it's a tool and it's a teaching that we hope everybody, not just here in our program, but other people that come through our programming, get to walk away with that understanding, and that practice. You know, that's an action that you take on. I think going back to, just some of those asks, I want to highlight that Antonio had shared about, the parks needing to have gathering areas, just for tribal folks, and then also putting tribal communities into the consultation process and talking about, who is local to that area and reaching out. And I'm curious from that conversation if you both have any more asks for some of the people we have in the room today. So, some of those land trust people, the park district people, water agency people, public utility companies, if there were any more asks you had.
I have a whole list. No, I'm just joking. I don't have a whole list. I want to talk about land acknowledgements for a moment. Is that okay? Yeah, okay. Okay, so land acknowledgements is this new fad that I'm seeing, that everybody does. And we appreciate the idea of acknowledging the tribal people that are from the area that you are in. However, if you are not taking those people into consideration when you are doing your policies, when you are doing your budgeting, when you are doing your outreach, you are a hypocrite. And I mean that in the most loving of ways. If you, I do this at EPA all the time, okay? So we're there, we're talking in Washington, D.C., and they sit there and they say, we are in, when we were up in Alaska or we were up in Washington, they said, we're in the territories of so-and-so, so-and-so. Or when we're at the Region 9 headquarters office, we're in the Loney, this and this. And I was like, okay, so now that you've acknowledged them, does that mean you're giving them more money? Does that mean you're giving them more input on the policies surrounding the regional headquarters office? Does that mean you're taking what they're saying into account that much more? And how are you doing that? I do not like land acknowledgements. I know a lot of people do, and I see there's a lot of land acknowledgements on there, and that's good. I don't have to do one because I'm Indian. And so people often say, well, are you going to do a land acknowledgement? No, I'm not. What am I going to say? Here, I'm home and I'm at my land. So I don't do land acknowledgements. Land acknowledgements are only relevant and important if you are backing it up with acknowledgement of the people whose land you're sitting on. Let me say that again. It is only important if you are backing it up by acknowledging the people whose land you're on. We can say land acknowledgement. We can say, oh, I'm sitting on the Tayaban Ramatish Aloni or what, we could say that, but what are you doing for those people that your office is at? If you're a nonprofit 501c3 environmental nonprofit, what are you doing for the people whose land you're sitting on? Whether it's in the city or it is in the country. If you're gonna do a land acknowledgement, please back it up. Please back it up with some actions on the ground for the people whose land you're sitting on. Because if you're in a Ohlone country, those people don't get the same access to the land that you do. if you're in Pomo country, we have reservations, but we have the responsibility to look out for those who do not have land and who do not have recognition. We have that responsibility. So if you're going to land acknowledge, I ask you to please understand those people that are on that land you're acknowledging. Find them. Especially if you're an environmental, any kind of environmental department, and I don't need to get on a soapbox and say, oh, bad people. That's not what I'm doing. We're all here to learn how to be better allies. And I work in the environmental field, and I have had to learn. I have had environmental policy shoved down my throat. And so every once in a while, I like to put it back on other people and say, I can learn your policies, but please learn mine. Thank you. I'll never be invited back, will I? No, just joking.
Oh, I guess that was a lot, but that was like perfect. Like, I guess I would like to say the same. It is really that. There was a land acknowledgement given in Pomo country, and I kind of felt insulted, like honestly. They were talking about almost every tribe in the United States, and I know it's from lack of understanding or knowing, just at least know where what territory you're in, at least know that you're in Pomo country, at least know that you're in Miwok country. You don't have to know specific tribes. That's something you could learn along the way, but at least know that, and I really honestly, build your own map of the tribes in your territory. Some of us have really big territories, and like I said, we have buffer zones, and sometimes we have shared spaces with each other within each other's territory where there was ceremonial grounds or special gathering sites. Understand that we are shy. But then there are some that are just really boisterous and will speak their mind, and don't feel intimidated by that. Some of us are very passionate, and when we have that type of passion, it's because of so much loss and so much of our culture being taken. Not only that, it's part of our culture is language. Language is connected to everything that we are in all parts of our tribal ways, and so it took one generation for that to go to sleep for us. One generation. That's how much chaos was happening. That's how much trauma was happening. That's how much, just so much was going on at that time, especially like for my own people. I could only speak for my people. It took that one generation, and it was because of everything that happened the generations before them. I'm a seventh generation. So I know how difficult it is to revive a culture, or because the generation before me, it was hard for them to be native. It was very hard for them to be native. It was easier to be Mexican a lot of the times, and you could go into stores, you could it was just easier if you were not native. So to revive something within a family, I was lucky that my elders, just all our elders, were really strong in everything else, in all the things. And so having to revive something in a family is really difficult, and it falls on your shoulders. It's really heavy, and having to share with your own people and teach your own people. Not all of them. I'm not saying nobody knows. People do know, but there's tribal people that need to be taught, and so we're not being stingy with our ways. We're just trying to teach ourselves, our own people first. There are things we will share, and there are things we will not share. So when you're asking, oh, can you share that with me, and they kind of avoid the question, it's not because they're being stingy. It's because that's something that's not going to be shared. What they share with you is what they're sharing, and they don't have to say, oh, I'll share this with you. Oh, I won't share this with you. We're not going to be that technical about things. If they're sharing, they're sharing. And if you're being shared with, they like you. They won't share with people they don't like. Um, and just respect that. It's just that trust is hard to come by when it comes to communities outside of our own, and understand where that passion is coming from. Some people call it angry Indian, or different things like that. It's passion. It's passion for who we are, passion for what we hold, this knowledge, this culture, these traditions, the religious ways, or have you religious ways. We call it just our way. It's the way we live, the way of life, the way Creator put us here. We're still here and we're still holding on strong. We still have so many things that make us who we are in this world. And a lot of us, a lot of our people may be broken, but we're not letting that be who we are. We are educated people, knowledge holders, cultural bearers, religious bearers, song singers, dancers, medicine people, herbalists. We are teachers, we are parents, we are loved ones, we are spiritual people, we are connected, we are reciprocity and stewardship in all ways. And for some of us, it's coming back to them. um and so just respect that when we're passionate about something, because I can be really sweet, really kind, really, and when I'm in a meeting or something and it's just been too much, I'm just like, excuse me, wait a minute. And then you're going to see a different side of me. You're going to see passion. You'll see when I'm really passionate about something and I feel like, no, what you're saying is wrong. And I keep telling you in a nice way and you keep on pushing. Don't push your ways on us. We've already had enough of that. We're trying to keep what we have strong and pass it on to our next generations. It's our generations that are sitting here in front of us that need to do that. For some of you, the generation is further off. For some of you, is probably less. Like we got like fifth generations, eighth generations. But it's up to us to make these friendships strong so that we can continue forward and be able to get all these things that we need done. That stewardship, that reciprocity, the respect, the resilience, the just connecting back to the land and knowing how to take care of this land so that it can take care of us, because we don't own the land, we belong to the land. This land knows our people. This land understands what we need. um, and it will take care of us as long as we take care of it. And that's rules from way back into spirit world. I don't know if you guys understand what that means, but we made a contract, a spiritual contract. And to be here today, to be able to represent that is really important. Thank you.
Thank you both for sharing that. I think, going back to, I just want to highlight real quick, back to what Auntie Mia was talking about around, the land acknowledgements and making sure that those need to be backed up, with actions and thinking about what are you doing for those people, in those areas. I hope everyone took notes because that's a lot of good input when you're thinking about your actions and your commitments that you'll be bringing to the end meeting here, next week, really thinking, um, fully, not just with in your mind, but I always say it's easy to be open-minded, it's harder to be open-hearted, and so thinking about keeping your mind and your heart open when you're thinking about those actions and the commitments that you want to make. Before our next question, I see Taylor has her hand up if she had a question or a comment.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I can ask a question now. I have a question that I think a lot of people in this room are going to have, because you notice, Mio, that there's a lot of people from the Bay Area here. And everybody next week has to come with multiple commitments for how they're going to go beyond land acknowledgements in their work. And I think Martina said, like, we have a very small community. There aren't that many Native people in Native communities. And yet there are a lot of them. And all the people in this group are going to have commitments that include reaching out to those same communities. And I'm sure that in your work, you see that we have a lack of capacity to answer the call and to meet and to give feedback to all of the different organizations and agencies that suddenly want to get in contact with us. And so I'm wondering if you could speak to your experience in your work with capacity, and, you know, if you have any observations about how Native people are coming together to create more capacity, and just your thoughts on that. Because we're getting asked to do a lot, and we're going to get asked to do more after next week.
Okay, here we go. So you want to give the Ohlone some capacity, give them some funding. There are several different Ohlone tribes that actually have working tribal councils, from Monterey to Coyote Hills to the Ramatish to the Muekma to the Tabayan is just getting in. There are Ohlone tribal councils. They do not have the funding because they are not federally recognized. And I want to say, let's understand why they're not federally recognized. They're not federally recognized because they sit within one of the most expensive land bases in California, the Bay Area. That is why they are not acknowledged. That is why they are not recognized. Let's not talk about, oh, they were killed off, oh, they were missionized. It's economics. It's purely economics. And the sooner we get to that honesty, the more we can move from it. They can't get recognized, federally recognized, because of where they are right now. But they are state recognized in some sense. You want them to answer your letters, then you're going to have to help by giving them the funds to do it. Those tribal councils need funding. And right now, some of them are working on shoestring budgets, and they're trying to answer letters. They're trying to answer all of those consultations of tribal historic preservation areas. And they're trying to, because everybody has an art site that they want acknowledged so that they can pass their NEPA or their CEQA or their EIS. They can get all these things done, and they need to have those tribal sign-offs. Oftentimes your sign-offs are done because of lack of response. So it's an automatic lack of response. Therefore, we can go through with the project. Please understand that when we're talking about Ohlone country, some of those people do not have the staffing power to do such things. You want to help them out, kick them down some money, kick them down some 501c3 money. They have like 3 of them have 501c3s, and they could use that type of funding to develop a position just to answer. You know, they would have to name it something else, because a lot of that, I know I'm kind of not being very clear, and I'm really sorry. I'm trying to get to the point where I'm really clear about this. But in order to answer your archaeological questions for your projects, that would mean acknowledging the tribal people are actually from that area. And that's the rub right there, because we want them to answer, but we don't want them to be recognized as from that area, because that might actually give them a hold on getting federally recognized. It's a rub. They need more money to answer all these questions and to provide the monitors and to provide the things that these programs need that are in the Bay Area. And they should be receiving money. You know, you should, if you want to do consultation with them regarding a major build project that sits right on top of a shell mound, then call them up and say, okay, we have XYZ amount of money to help that you answer these questions. You know, and I know that we're all coming up on some crazy budget times. Everybody is hurting here, especially those of you in the Utilities Commission. I know that those things are hurting, but Biden has said 40% of all of the grants that are going out go to 40% of the underserved communities. And your unrecognized communities, your tribal communities, your brown people are actually those underserved communities. So you may be able to move some funds around so that you can support those unrecognized tribes, because they are considered your underserved communities. I don't know, Taylor, if that answered your question, but I was trying to get it from an Ohlone perspective, from a Pomo perspective. I didn't see a lot of people in the Pomo area, except for like on the cusp of Kashaya and Coast Miwok area. You know, those tribes, one tribe has a lot of money to answer your questions, one tribe doesn't. So as you're talking about calling, call more than one of those tribes. Those buffer zones that Martina is talking about are really important because it's an overlap of gathering areas. It's an overlap of those. But yeah, I'm hoping that answered some kind of question.
I love that you said all that, Mio. And I think like for us, when we for us Pomo people, when we look down into the city, you know, it's been really sad. Like it has, to know that all these Ohlone people, all these people that they have no, like majority of them have no land base. Give them a place and space. Like, I don't know, it's kind of upsetting. You can buy, you know, people can buy all this land, parks can buy all this land. You can't give them a little area. Yeah, help them with money, you know, because, you know, as the years have gone by, and when we look at the Ohlone people and those people in those inner cities, their lands under concrete, their lands under buildings, their people are under buildings, their loved ones are under buildings. Their history is below the ground, you know, under all that concrete. And they need places and spaces. They need funding. They need a building. They need an office. They need to be shown appreciation. They need to be shown respect in all manners, because it's not right. Like, and over the years, we see that there are you know, funders that come in and help out some of them. And wow, it's beautiful to see them just come up and represent at some different meetings. And it's beautiful to see them come alive. It's beautiful to see the classes that they're teaching their people. It's beautiful to see their youth show up. You know, it's the strength, the resilience that is there. I always, just from my own perspective, because I can't speak for them, but I can speak from a perspective, and that's what I'm doing. When I look at those people in the inner cities, those tribes, those Ohlones, I think about how they had to go into hiding. My people were lucky. We were way far out in the middle of nowhere, but them right there, right in the midst of all the things that were happening, their resilience is beautiful. And now that here they come, they're coming out and they're starting to show that they are still there. They didn't die off. They weren't killed off. They are still alive and thriving. They need help to keep on moving forward, to show the inner city that they are there. Their names should be out there. You're walking into Ohlone territory. What tribe is it? What band is it? You know, who's, you know, we talk about land acknowledgements. And sometimes that's difficult to talk about, you know, and same thing with me. I'm like, well, what Ohlone is this, you know? But when it comes to signage, like we're fighting over in our territory, whether it should be Fort Ross or Mitini, you know? So we get big Fort Ross and then Mitini. Like, why not Mitini? That's the name of the land. It's the same thing for down there. Like, it's okay to put that it belongs to these people, that that's their territory, that, you know, you're not going to lose anything. What are you going to lose? That people know where they're at, you know? They're going to be knowledge based, you know? They're going to be given all the things they need to know where they're at and understand what land they're on and who it belongs to truly, not belongs, but who are the caretakers of that area and who have been caring for it for so long before any visitors came, these longtime visitors. So yeah, I'm glad that Mijo just really put that out there like that. Thank you, Mijo. And it's hard for us to speak for others, but we can speak from our point of view and what we see.
Thank you both. I think it's really important to have those perspectives and that insight. I think going back to what you were saying, Auntie Martina, about, you know, showing reciprocity and showing respect, um, and just appreciation, you know, for the what we would say urban natives or inner city native people. But it's really, I'll say the same for myself, being able to be a dancer and traveling to all these different places to dance and seeing more of the Ohlone people reclaiming that part of their culture and a part of that history. I feel like it's for a lot of us, it's regaining that sovereignty of who we are as Native people, as California Indian people, and whether that's basketry or our language or our dance, or just being able to say we are here and to have that presence out in the community. And so I think it's very important that we take a moment to acknowledge that. And I just want to say that, you know, this has been a very, I feel like just enriching and a lot of love and appreciation for the both of you. Um, that was a majority of my questions I had. Again, I just want to thank, you know, our guests for being so generous and not just sharing their knowledge, but sharing their experiences, their expertise, their insight. Um, like Mio said, it's coming from love and not from judgment, you know, but just being very transparent, because we need to have that knowledge and we need to hear that perspective. And so just want to give thanks for the both of you for sharing what you shared. And I think we're at the point where we want to kind of open the floor here for some Q&A time. So if we could, any questions that are out there, we are through Zoom, so maybe if you could raise your Zoom hand before unmuting. A few people saying thank you in the chat here. Any questions, thoughts, comments, things you're sitting with? Annie.
First, thank you so much, Meyo and Martina, for being here and for sharing and provoking and all with love. We definitely feel it. I feel it. I wanted to ask if if you have examples of allies being exceptional allies. Like, there's a lot of what not to do, and I'm curious what we could do. What are examples of people or organizations that have just shown up in amazing ways, and I wonder if you'd be willing to share so that we can see what we're trying to do instead of what we're trying not to do. That's important too. But if you have any positive examples of allies or alliances, we'd love to hear them.
Well, we have a whole bunch, but just for Kashaya Pomo, you know, Land and Trust. Wow, they helped us to gain the Kashaya Coastal Reserve. No questions asked. You know, they helped us, they helped us to, purchase the property. Also, uh, California Environmental, they also came in clutch at the end, with helping us to purchase the property. And some of these places have come back. Many nonprofit organizations. I couldn't tell you each one because it's been a couple of years, and so forgive me if you're out there. I know City of Sonoma, they have come in and they have helped us also purchase that property. Property was millions of dollars. We had a couple million, $1.5 million or so, and and they, all these nonprofit organizations helped us to gain that property back and become, not just have a property, but to be able to become coastal people once again. Because we were inland, 4 miles inland, in an old village site, but the land there doesn't peak. It's very difficult to have sewage, very difficult to have more than the houses that we already have there. So being able to have access to the ocean, have access to traditional food, plants and trees, to be able to have a place to go gather, to pray, to be able to have a place to take our sorrows, our brokenness, and to invite people from other places to come and bring their youth to from the inner city to come into the wilderness and learn from other tribes. It's beautiful, like those type of things. And these nonprofit organizations have come back and helped us where we needed help us to buy machinery so that we're able to make our own fencing, not having to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to re-fence the property, where right now it looks kind of bad, but we're working on it. It's like, when we got the place, the fences were already ready to fall down. And so, we're very limited and in funding. And so, yeah, like, that's one thing. Like, they came in and they continue to come back and to continue to help us, and they know we're limited. We have maybe a couple small businesses that keep things moving forward, but nothing grand. So you're not going to see us rebuild all the fences on 1,000 acres of property. It's just not going to happen tomorrow, And so, but they continue to come back and continue to check on the tribe. If we got some extra money, where do you need help? It's beautiful to do that. And I see with like with parks, they're very slowly but surely coming to our aid, where we had pay to pray. I don't know if any of you know that. It came to a point where we had to pay to get into the parks to do our ceremonies, and when we had a ceremony, we would have maybe 100 tribal members come in different cars, and they all had to pay to get into the park to do their ceremonies and pray. And that's where, the Pray to Pray Act came into place, where we don't have to pay in our area to get into the park. And it should be that way, because we're not going there to go have fun. We're going there to gather. I don't ever go to any parks to go have fun. Maybe once in a great while. I would say maybe in the last 5 years, I went twice to a park and that was a city park, to go have a picnic with my family. Any other parks is to gather or to have ceremony. So, we shouldn't have to pay to go pray on our own territories. And that's, parks coming in slowly but surely, and they're trying to understand. They're always talking about funding, but they, it's difficult with them sometimes. We're having a battle with parks right now about, Fort Ross. It's always for us. That's always something we're working on, I guess. And we're trying to bend and weave with one another. We're building a basket, right? We're building a big, beautiful basket of culture and understanding. And it just takes time. Sometimes those weavers snap, and we got to just get back to it and start again. So, yeah.
Some great examples I am talking to the museum personnel here. Some great examples are the Healdsburg Museum and the Grace Hudson Museum. The smallest museums, the little tiny museums, have the Healdsburg Museum allowed us to come in and look at the collection. And it wasn't with a person standing there and saying, don't touch the basket like this, don't touch the basket like this, only a certain number. We got to come in there as the Pomo Weaver Society. By the way, the Pomo Weaver Society is a group of Pomo weavers that have gotten together to build teachers and to be mentors and to retake back our Pomo weaving traditions. So we got to go in there as the Pomo Weaver Society and have a night at the museum. And we got to touch our baskets and to have actually non-specified hours with our baskets. The Grace Hudson Museum opened the cases and let us handle the tump lines and handle the carrying netting for the baskets. For the museums, you all know what a big deal it is, but you have to also understand that in order to revitalize these traditions of weaving, we need to see what was woven in the past. We need to be able to touch and hold it and reconnect with it so that we can have more of an understanding. As somebody who hasn't wove something in particular, the moment you get to touch it and feel it and then understand the hows and whys of why it looks that way, of why it feels that way, what the cordage is, it changes the weaving perspective. So for the museums, the Healdsburg Museum and the Grace Hudson Museum, Healdsburg, California, Ukiah, California, have bent over backwards and are exceptional partners. They have shown what it's like to be a true ally in the museum world. They have a basket garden within their little park that we designed. They had an advisory panel and it covers the 5 Grace Hudson Museum. It's called the Wild Gardens and it covers the 5 biomes of Pomo country. It's not huge and it's not, it's 1 acre, but it's just 1 acre of goodness. And we actually gather willow, redbud, and dogbane there. We can come in there and look at, it's also not landscaped so that it's this mowed lawn all the time. There's actually a section on it that has tiered grouping of millets and seeds that we use for food. And so it grows one right after another. And that took us coming in there and saying, hey, can we get this done? So those are some allies in the museum world. Martina definitely said the allies for the Kashaya Coastal Reserve. But there's also ones like Stornetta that has partnered with Point Arena tribes in helping gain that land back. Some other exceptional ones is the start of Caltrans. Caltrans is getting there, folks. But the idea that Caltrans has put in, we can now mark out where we don't want pesticides to be. And this is only in Lake County. I don't know how it is in the rest of them. But we can tell them where we don't want them to spray any pesticides because it's our dogbane patch or it's a certain willow patch. So Caltrans, Lake County Caltrans has given us that mechanism. That's exceptional because that's our health. But yeah, those are the only ones I can think of offhand. I'd love for that list to be huge though.
Wonderful, thank you. And I see that you were able to respond, Auntie Meyo, to the question that had been in the chat, but that question was, are there specific Native groups and organizations that we should also be contacting to connect with Native people who are not members of federally recognized tribes? And it was recommended to reach out to the Native American Heritage Commission with the list that they have provided.
And also to Google.
Yes.
Yeah, because the Native American Heritage has a limited list of what they call MLDs, which are most likely descendants. Some of those other tribal people are not on that list and should be, because everybody is going through a personnel crunch right now in the feds and the states. So understand that there are people that are left off that list. But if you Google, like most of you are in Ohlone country, if you Google Ohlone, there are several state recognized and also recognized within themselves groups that come up.
Thank you. And there's also some tribes that will be county recognized. So just going out and doing your research and seeing what you can find. Taylor, next question.
Yeah, part of why we wanted to have Martina and Meyo here is that they're well versed in the political side of Indian country, but also understand the cultural or the importance of including and centering cultural bearers in conversations around stewardship and conservation. And I just want to make it super clear to everybody that you should not only be reaching out to the political entities, but to the cultural bearers when building out your plans and setting your goals. And I'm wondering if Meyo, Martina, if either of you would be able to speak to that one more time. Like when people are going to make their plans and they're thinking, oh, why won't the big federally recognized tribe reach out to me? I can't move forward because the political entity will not approve my plan. And then they stop, right? And so I'm wondering if any of you, can just speak to that and why it is so important to make sure you have a well-rounded group of Native people behind you when you're making your plans.
Oh, I think I can say. Okay. Well, we have protocol, and some tribes have a bigger protocol than we do. Well, I guess first you never just email somebody, and you don't email a tribe and say what you want or what you need or what you're looking for. You introduce yourself, and then you ask that you're supposed to ask us for collaboration. You're looking for collaboration or some form of contact, and then you move forward. Once you get an email back, you move forward from there. And you never be forceful. Never come and say I need. You don't need nothing. It's really what it is. I mean, it's all in how you present yourself, and if it's through email or face to face. If you plan on, you're going to work with the tribe in a year, you know what? If they're going to be somewhere, their council member's going to be somewhere, go to that thing. Take your time to go to that thing and find them and introduce yourself, so they see your face. The tribes are very busy. We really are. We're very, very busy. Some of the things that right now I'm not on council, but I am still doing some work for my tribe. They call me and say, hey, can you make this? The council's busy. So I'm still tribal representative. I will always be a tribal representative. My tribe believes that once you're a council member, you will always be a part of that. And so I still do work for them when they're all busy. They're all going to different meetings, spread thin. And so, yeah, also like you want to make sure that you take the time, show effort that you really do want to work with the tribes. Giving them a call a month before you need them to come help you without helping us first. It's a give and take. It is. It's a give and take. You can't just show up and want us to come help you. Really, I mean, and that's hard to say it that way, but that's honestly the truth. We get a lot of different entities coming to the tribes, and they want, without giving or without even really introducing themselves or even becoming a friend to the tribes. So I mean, and it's just difficult to say it like that, but that's the truth.
If you know you have a project a year out, why are you contacting us 30 days before the deadline and saying, hey, we need your input? You don't need our input at that point. When your project is in the development stage, hey, reach out, contact us. When your project is a year out and you know you're going to need something, start sending those emails. I'm sure that everybody here has the same email process, which is sometimes we just don't get to every single thing. Every quarter, I have to list out every email that I get regarding an ARC project. And the list is about, I don't know, at the very least, for projects relevant to the tribe that I work for, the list is at least 40 per quarter. So every 3 months, I'm getting at least 100. There are 40 that are actually relevant to the tribe that I'm answering. And I get these calls saying, we need you to answer this and this. Okay. You know, I need you to contact me more than 30 days. I'm not sure what it is with this 30, 60, and 90 days. But if you have a project that has been in the start of conception 100, 100 days ago, a year ago, something, contact us then. Start contacting us then. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, and what Mijo's saying is that, like, I mean,
Martina, you gotta stop calling me Mijo.
Oh, sorry, did I? Meyo, sorry.
Yes, I know you were dancing with him the other night, but
sorry, Meyo. What she brought to mind for me is that it's like you're contacting us at the end when really you're just here, sign this, give us the okay, and that's it. Like, it's really like you don't care to even get a word in, let us get a word in edgewise, and that's kind of disrespectful. That's all.
Thank you both.
just to clarify before you move to the next one, there's a dancer that's named Mijo. That's why. And then people get me mixed up with, yeah. So that was, yeah, it's in love. It's in love.
Bob, you have your hand up?
Thank you. Thank you, Martina and Meyo and Rose. This is, my name's Bob, and I work at Sonoma Land Trust in Sonoma County, and I'm the stewardship director, and my team does a lot of work with on-the-ground restoration and land management. And over the years that I've been here, we've been trying to develop respectful relations with the different tribal entities in Sonoma County and beyond. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate your real forthright, frank guidance that you provided here this morning. Speaking just for myself, I've made every mistake that you've talked about this morning, and a few more that you thankfully haven't talked about. And we keep coming back, and I guess I want to just mostly just say thank you and for all the tribal people we've worked with for the patience and guidance as our organization is trying to understand how to look through a different cultural lens at the landscape, and learning to appreciate. I think part of our process has been we thought we were bringing things to the tribes and doing things for the tribes, when actually we were asking for help and we didn't even understand it. And so thank you for your patience. I understand that the other thing that it's taken us a long time to learn is that many of the tribes have actually more important things than to respond to our emails. It took us a while to figure that out. You're very involved in healthcare issues and housing and education for your tribal members, which clearly all of those things are way more important than any email I've ever sent. So I apologize for our lack of understanding, but we're getting there. This is one of the challenges, and I think you've been speaking to it, is speaking for myself, it's difficult for us to understand the tribal structures and when we should be working through TIPOs, when we, and if and how we should work with tribal councils. who we should be working with, whether we're allowed, so to speak, to reach out, like Martina, if I wanted to call you. And so do you have any guidance for folks working and the people on this call about how do we get to know those things? Because everybody's people, and we've stepped in it a number of times completely inadvertently, not understanding I should have called person A instead of person B. What's your if you had a couple of minutes for your guidance or your thoughts on that? Because we don't want to be in the middle of whose tribal territory it is, and we also don't want to be in the middle of whose family gathering rights are involved and who's in position of authority at the tribe. So any thoughts you have on that, just so that we could do a better job, I'd appreciate.
I guess if you have made a contact and have made a friend within the tribe, a lot of times, and you're not sure who to contact next, because I know there's a lot of times where councils turn over often, most every 2 years, many every 4 years, and there's very, very few that have their council more than 10 years. Some have it for like 20 years, but a lot turn over a lot. So I understand like where you don't know who to talk to. So if you've made a friend in the tribe before, contact them and they'll contact who they need. They'll give you the information you need to who to contact, who to talk to. And then, they will also, like I usually will give a call to whoever I sent the people their emails, and I'll let them know, hey, look for this email. It's important, making friends within the tribe is really important, and keeping those contacts and keeping those friends are really good. And always try to remember, like if you work with, say, if you're working with Kashaya often and you are, try to keep up on who is council members now. In our council, we have 3 members that have been continuous council members. Year after year, and they've been staying within those positions or moving to other positions. So they pretty much stay on there. But so if you're working with the tribe, make sure that you get to know who's working in the office and who's new. Make sure that you let that person that you're working with currently, know that you'll be having some new people working with them. And ask if there's anybody new in their office that you should get to know or contact, so that you get some kind of friendships moving forward. Always try to stay up on what's going on, because it makes us feel like you care, not that you just need something, but that you care and how things are going. Of course, staying out of the politics, very important, but just knowing who's running things is important. And for right now, Reno's back in chairship show. So, Meyo.
Yay. So rule of thumb for the tribes that I work with, you will send your letter to the chairperson and the tribal administrator. And the place where I work, if you send it to the chair or the tribal administrator, it will land on my desk. If you are in a particular county, I think you said Sonoma. So you have 6 tribes. That's not a lot to get the information on. You have 6 tribes within your area. It might be good to just send it to, I'm all for making friends in it, but I also don't want to be your friend in it. So don't send me every email, because I get thousands. The tribal administrator is usually your best bet, because they have access to send that mail forth to every single department. There's a TIPO list for the state, and that's always a good one if you're doing ARC requests. If you're doing environmental requests, there's a list of environmental directors through Region 9. I'm actually one of the Central California reps, so you can always, I hate to say this, but you can always reach out to me and I can give you a list. EPA@guineaville.net. epa@giddyville.net is my email. And I have a list of all of the Central California, and as the California state, I have a list of all the California environmental directors. So if it's an environmental request, if it's a TIPO request, it's a tribal historic preservation officer or the state historic preservation officer will have a list of all of the TIPOs. You know, if it's an ARC request, I generally don't do ARC requests, but I do like timber harvest plans, things like that. But my tribal administrator makes sure that everything that needs to be routed to me is routed, because the chairman will receive a copy and I will also receive a copy if it's environmental related.
I just wanted to add that totally what Meyo was saying. Just so you guys know, a lot of people contact me about our TIPO. Our TIPO's really, really busy. I mean, he's just one person. He doesn't have a lot of help. He doesn't have anybody to help him. He only has monitors. And so he is so busy. And so people are always contacting me and saying, hey, do you guys have a TIPO? We do have a TIPO. If he doesn't get to you, he's, you know, it's always what's more important. And I know you guys all feel like your projects are important, but there's other spiritual places that are more important that trump that. So and sometimes, you know, if I feel like it's really important, I will let them know, hey, look for this email. But yeah, so we do have a TIPO.
Wonderful. So I just want to thank everyone for being here. Want to again thank Martina and Meyo for everything they shared with us. We are a little bit over time, so I just wanted to say thank you. The resources that everyone is looking for, we can get those resources and we can distribute them so Meyo and Martina don't get inundated with emails. But we just want to say thank you to everyone for being here today. And yeah, any other questions that come up? This is recorded. This will live on our website at some point. So for anybody in the future who didn't have access for today or couldn't be here today, they'll be able to view this at another time. And again, can't thank Martina and Meyo enough for everything that they shared with us today.
Yes, thank you, Meyo. Thank you, Martina. So grateful for your time and honesty and humor and creativity and everything. So thank you so much. And thank you all for coming.